Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations race at Bathurst in Group 3 cars. Now the majority of people picked the Nissan GTR for this race, a car not really suited to myself. However, managed to put a reasonable qualifying lap in, starting from P5 as you're about to see on screen at the moment. Now for this video, unfortunately the replay did not save, so we've had to just keep the gameplay camera from the stream, which was recorded live obviously. So there's going to be a bit of commentary from the actual live stream that will run over during this video. Let's just try and stay with these as long as I can, because I don't think I've got the pace to be anywhere near these in front. I've just got to try my best to stay with them. Right, concentration time. See you in half an hour. So as you can see there, I didn't really believe that I had the race pace to challenge too much in this race, because I was struggling with the Nissan GTR. So starting down in P5, just trying to really hang on to this position if anything, and just see if we can just hold on to this right to the end. As you see, Calcer broke very early for that corner. I think you're going to hear me comment now. The bloody hell happened there. Calcer broke really early, took me by surprise there. Yeah, as you can see there, it did take me a little bit by surprise, but we got away with that, kept the position and still in the slipstream all the way up the main straight now, and just trying to hold on to this position really, and see if we can just try and find some rhythm with this car, because like I say, it doesn't really suit me, the Nissan GTR. However, I do like the handling. It's just that it doesn't really suit my style, but the aim was to see how well we could do in this race. It's a long race and just try and keep it consistent. Giorgio's on the mediums, as you can hear there. Yeah, Giorgio, I believe Giorgio must have been on the mediums at the start of the race, because I'm pretty sure that he started right at the front, and he seems to be struggling quite a lot in that Nissan GTR. So struggling, looks like he's on the mediums, because the opening lap on the mediums was pretty terrible for grip. The tyres felt very cold. I'm not sure if the cloud had anything to do with that. It was a cloudy condition. Some people said that during cloudy conditions the tyres take longer to warm up. I'm not 100% convinced by that. I'm not 100% sure, because mediums in general will take a little bit longer than the softer tyre to warm up. So it could just be that issue that made it seem worse than it was. But managing to do a fairly solid opening lap, you can see there, staying in the slipstream with Calster, that's probably helped me quite a bit, that slipstream. So now just trying to keep it nice and consistent for as long as possible really, and just make as little mistakes as possible. If we don't make any big mistakes, we should be able to come home in a reasonable finish in this race. So keeping it solid through, you can see everyone pretty much just keeping it nice and calm at the moment. No one's going for any rash moves or any dives or anything like that. It's all fairly standard. You can see getting caught up behind me now by, I think that's Rick behind us. So Rick's going to probably be putting me under some pressure. Rick is a very fast driver, so I think particularly at this track he's quite fast as well. However, we're going to hold him off at the moment and see if we can hang on to this P5 for as long as possible, as we work our way up the main straight now. Still following Calcer in that slipstream, trying to hang on for as long as possible. As you see there behind, building that gap up again. The slipstream's helping me maintain the gap to the car behind. So at the moment things are going reasonably okay. Now the problem is obviously I didn't have the outright pace, so a single little error on a lap was going to probably, if it loses me the slipstream or loses me that, you know, under 1 second range, I was going to start dropping back a little bit compared to the drivers in the top four there. You can see they seem to have a lot better race pace than what I can do at the moment. As we now jump ahead a little bit further on in lap 3, you can see at this point I decided to let Rick go through. Go Rick, you're faster. Go, you're faster than me. As you can hear, I'm trying to I was putting my hazards on to let him know, and I think at this point I just lifted slightly. You're going to see on screen now. He's faster. I'm going to hope he can drag me up to them. Yeah, we just let him through, let him go through, and just try and now hang on to the slipstream of Rick. Now I expected Rick to do 4 laps on the soft tyre, which he's obviously started on, and hoping that he could possibly drag me forward a little bit and take me back into the battle for the top 4. I was trying to drive it very tactically. Pressure's on now, mate, don't bin it. As you see, yeah, Rick now starting to make a few errors on the lap. You can see me on live. I was getting a little bit worried at this point because we've let him through, and I was hoping that he wouldn't make any errors. I was trying to keep it nice and smooth, staying behind him and hoping that he could push, because Rick, when he's pushing really fast, can be an extremely fast driver and one of the fastest on the game. Oh god. As a massive moment there from Rick, nearly binning it, and this is not what we wanted after letting him through.
But we're going to hang on in there and hope the slipstream will help us
I
out.
hope that's not a penalty, but I think it might be.
I thought at that point there, we think we're going to get a penalty. I did do quite a big cut, you could see. But somehow, I actually got away with that and didn't receive a penalty, which was very lucky from my behalf, because we got away with quite a few moments in this race through where I thought I'd get a penalty. But I feel like in race conditions, the game goes a little bit more lenient on certain corners compared to time trial. As we pick that slipstream up, we're not going to go for a move. We're just going to bump draft him down the straight, because there's no point me trying to go for an overtake, because Rick is faster. However, Rick, I think, pitted on this lap now. He dives off into the pits, and that leaves me with no car in front. Now, I didn't expect that to happen. I probably wouldn't have let him through if I'd known that he was going to pit at that point. However, Rick decided to go for an early stop after 3 laps. I don't really know why he did it. Maybe just to try and get an undercut with the mediums and try and make the mediums work for longer, I believe, as we now going in the pits on the end of lap 4. Going for the 3 stop strategy. It seemed to be the way to go in this race. Do 4 and then possibly 3 or 4 laps on the mediums, and then go for 2 more shorter stints on the softer compound tyre, because the softer compound tyre was probably around a second a lap at least quicker than the medium tyre. One thing about this track was, you may have noticed with the pit stop, is it was very short on the time loss. You can see I actually came out the pits right behind Rick, and then we've rejoined. You can see a little bit further on in the race now. We managed to stay with his slipstream for a while, as Josette gets a massive penalty in front of us. He's going to lose a massive amount of time there as we skip past and go through to the next lap. Now, at the end of the next lap, you can see Josette's caught me back up now. He's took the penalty and he's right behind us. We're going to actually hang on into this position until we can actually find the safe way to let him through. I wanted to let him through in a safe place. There was no point me letting him through here because we both lose time. However, we're going to try and let him through on the straight as soon as possible. I think you'll hear me talking about it in a moment as we jump on board with the live commentary.
He's on soft tyres, so I'll probably let him go on the straight in a minute.
Yeah, as you can see there, the aim was to let him go through on this main straight. He's on the soft tyre, I'm on the medium tyre, the slower compound tyre, trying to get rid of the medium tyre early on, and now we're going to let Josette through as soon as possible. You can see I think I had the hazards on. You're probably going to see him put his hazards on to say thank you, because there's no point holding him up at this phase.
I don't want to fight, I want to maintain a reasonable finish. Last race of the day. I'm sure he's got soft tyres on. He's way faster than me anyway.
So as you can see there, Josette puts his hazards on, says thank you. He's on the softer compound tyre. No point me really fighting someone at this stage of the race.
I might be able to come back at him anyway, because I've got mediums on now, so might be able to come back at him at the end.
And this was one very good point, was that I was on the mediums now. He's still got to use the mediums. So it all should come back to me towards the end of the race.
I'm going to pit for soft now.
As you can see, the plan was now to get into the pits, put the softer compound tyre on the faster tyre. If I can stay in his slipstream for this lap, this is actually going to help me out just by drafting him down the straight. I'm going to gain a few tenths of what I should really be doing on the medium tyres.
That's probably a penalty, that. Was definitely. No, how am I getting away with these?
Again, you can see, managed to get very lucky with another corner. I believe that was a proper corner cut.
I'm shocked that wasn't a penalty, because that should have been.
And I actually believed, like, it was. I was 100% convinced at that stage that we were going to get a penalty. It felt like we cut that corner way too much and more than I would normally get away with. But somehow getting very lucky in this race, and sometimes you need a bit of luck. And this time we get it for this race, and I can carry on my way and try and get this pit stop out the way. So we've done the medium stint now, so now we can go to the softer compound tyre. However, keep an eye on the pit entry, and you're going to see that Rick has made a big error on the pit entry. And you can see I actually found it quite amusing during the live stream, because I thought I might jump him.
Will I jump him though? Because he went in the pits really slow. I don't know. No, he got it just out ahead, but that's good though. I get his slipstream. Don't worry, I'm not going to go past you. Just stay to left. No, no, no. Stay to left. Stay to left. I'm not going to go for a move. No point.
So as you can see, trying to make sure he stayed to left, because I thought that he was at this point going to be on the softer compound tyre, and I'm not 100% sure he was. I think he had actually gone onto the mediums without me knowing, but maybe he thought I was going to go for a move, because I've got them mediums out of the way. But with that big error, that's really brought me back into the battle with Rick. However, I thought he was on the softs now. I expected him to pull away, but you can see he does seem to be struggling a bit with grip on this opening lap.
Come on, Rick. Don't bottle it.
So maybe some of that was down to obviously the medium tyres taking that extra lap to warm up. You can see he seems to be struggling through the corners, but again, I wasn't aware of him being on the medium tyres. I didn't spot it when we went in the pits. Maybe I should have tried to keep an eye out on that, but with the error that he made on the pit entry, kind of caught me out, and I didn't expect to be this close behind Rick. And you could see that he clearly had more pace because he would have been going in the pits 2 to 3 seconds ahead of me. Well, about 2 seconds ahead of me, and a bit unfortunate for him that that happened, as we're now gonna, you can see, following Rick. We're going to skip on a few laps and we're still following him. It was pretty static, just driving behind Rick for a few laps there, just keeping it nice and smooth and just trying to use his speed. However, like I say, at this point I thought he was on the soft tyre. However, I believe he was actually on the medium tyre, doing quite a good job with his race pace on the medium tyres. I'm quite surprised by the strategy that he seemed to be running in this race. Maybe he was just trying to constantly get the undercut with the medium tyre. He knew his pace was probably good and he didn't want to get stuck behind other cars. That is a risk of doing the strategy where you go on the soft tyre more. If you get stuck behind cars on a stint where, you know, say they're on warm mediums and you lose you can lose 2 seconds when you're on the soft tyre if you get unfortunate with traffic. However, I still think that the soft tyre would have been the fastest way to do this, but Rick decided to go on the medium tyre. However, he's not really holding me up at this stage. He might be losing me a bit, but he's gaining me down the straight, and I'm able to just take it quite smooth with him in front like this. I find it a little bit easier at this track when I've got someone in front. Sometimes you obviously get the dirty air, but you can get a judgment on some of the lines where you're throwing the car into the apexes and just trying to keep the rhythm through the corner, especially it's downhill section. You can see trying to follow someone through here. Rick there hitting the wall there, which will lose him a bit of time, and you have to be very careful hitting the wall there. You can actually pick up a penalty if you hit it too aggressively, but this time Rick gets away with that. And again, on the throttle as early as possible. I'm not going to go for a move, and you're going to probably hear me say now to Rick, don't worry, I think I was flashing him to let him know I'm not going to try and overtake him.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna go for a move. No point battling.
As you can see there, having to back out the throttle because I didn't want to bump draft him that close into a corner. You don't want to try and tap him forward and, you know, knock his braking out into a heavy braking zone like that.
I'm staying out, mate. Wow, wrong braking point.
As Rick dives off into pits, you can see it actually caught me out, and he was actually on the medium tyre. So next lap in, we're going to dive in the pits and put another set of fresh soft tyres on now. We're going to probably come out directly behind Rick. We'll have to look and see now. He was around 2.3 seconds as we went into the pits, so we should come out around 1.5 behind. Let's have a little look as we come out of the pits for another stop there onto a fresh set of soft tyres, and we're going to be able to go to the end on these tyres now. You can see that Rick has actually broke that slipstream, so I think he possibly was on the softer compound tyre for this last stint, probably waiting for that light fuel to go onto the softer tyres and do the 5 laps. So will I be able to stay with him? Will I be able to keep this gap as close as possible? It seems like we've got Josette behind us, but I think he's on slightly more worn tyres. So I should be able to build that lead up to Josette once my tyres are up to temperature. And again, it did take even the soft tyres half a lap before they started finding the grip. You can see they're running a little bit wide into that tight left-hander, having to go down to first gear to try and bite the car into the apex. It was something that did happen a few times. You had to just be very cautious on the opening half a lap on the softs and the whole first lap on the mediums, and then the mediums warmed up, and the same for the soft tyre after halfway through the opening lap. You can see now the grip is starting to return. I'm able to carry a lot of speed through that really fast left-hander there, and gaining a little bit of time over Josette at that point. And this is now where I should be able to start pulling away from Josette a bit. I think he's on I think his tyres are maybe a lap or two old, and he's probably going to try and extend that stint to the end. So with these fresh tyres, we should be able to keep this position all the way to the end. It'll be interesting if I can manage to hold on now to the finish of this race in P5. So as we skip through now to the final lap of the race, you can see I'm still in P5. Managed to maintain the gap to Rick up front. He's 2.6 seconds, 2.5 ahead. He's obviously got a lap older tyres, but Rick obviously doing a great job keeping the pace with them tyres. We've managed to increase the gap to Josette. Josette fallen back to about 5 seconds behind us. Not sure if he had a penalty or if that is possibly medium tyres or whether it's just tyre wear. Not 100% sure, but we've managed to keep this P5, the position we started in, and maintained it now to the very last lap. So this is actually not a bad performance for me because, like I say, my pace was struggling around here. It wasn't terrible, But obviously in this car, a car that doesn't suit me, it's actually better than I expected. I've actually didn't expect to be getting a P5 from this lobby with the drivers that were in the race. If it would have been a different car that was strong here, I think I could have got a solid result. But like I say, I think it was when the Beetle was a strong car here, I was actually a lot more competitive during the race. It suited me a lot more for this track. But the Nissan GTR, there was no fuel saving involved for this race. It was completely flat out to the very end. It was just about looking after the tyres and being as fast as you could really over the laps, with the new pit lane loss of only 3 seconds as we go through the last sector now. And I think what you're going to see up ahead is a possible mistake by Rick going into the final corner, hitting the wall. I was a little bit I thought he might get a penalty, as you're going to hear from me as you see him going into the wall there.
Rick hit the wall. Damn, if only he would have just done it a bit worse.
So yeah, Rick getting actually a little bit lucky there. He hit the wall, didn't get a penalty, so and didn't actually lose that much time. He lost about 3 or 4 attempts out of that, maybe half a second. It wasn't enough for me to gain that much time. We gained obviously that half second, but not enough to get in the slipstream to even think about making a move. But obviously them worn tyres, he did pit a lap earlier, starting to affect Rick a little bit on this final lap. But myself, very, very happy with the race so far. Coming home in P5, a solid performance in the Nissan GTR, a car that I'm not particularly happy with. And I think you'll hear from myself when we were racing live that I was quite happy with the result, really.
I'm happy with that. From where I started, that's a solid result. Like, the finishing time's not bad. It would have been on the 40 mark if it wasn't obviously starting. Where I started was at P... Where did we start? I can't even remember. P5 was it? Or P4? Can't remember. I'll take that.
So as you can see, yeah, we started P5 and came home in P5. A fairly solid drive when I didn't really think I'd have the pace. Some tactical driving, letting obviously Josette through at certain points. It actually helped me out by doing that because it gained me a bit of pace on warm mediums. And also Rick, I think he had more pace. He had that unfortunate incident though into the pit lane where he lost 2 or 3 seconds. So I think I did the right thing in letting him go through. There was no point battling, risking penalties and risking losing time to other drivers. We drove it sensibly. And that enabled me to finish in P5, a fairly solid result. And like I say, if I know I've got the pace, I will fight other drivers and push as hard as possible. But when I know that my pace is a little bit lower, I try and drive it tactically and just come home in a reasonable finishing position. And we managed that with a P5 there in the Nissan GTR. Hope you enjoyed that video. Obviously a little bit different to normal with the get only the gameplay view from the live stream. Unfortunately, the replay didn't save, like I say. Should be back to normal now. I've cleared space in my replay library, so most of the other videos in the future now should be back to the normal full commentary, no live stream audio. Although some people might enjoy that, but obviously it's just the same as the live stream, and we'll get that sorted for the next video. Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed with the link on the screen at the moment. Hit that notification button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.